I'm Paolo Nespoli, Italian astronaut of the European Space Agency. If somebody would ask me if I have a preference for a short duration space flight or a long duration space flight, I think I would have difficulties in answering, because I think any space flight today is good. Whatever it is, short or long, they are so precious, unique that it would be difficult to pick. The two space flights, having done a short and a long, I would say that they are completely different in their characters and how they develop. A short one, it's a series of very quick activities, bum, 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 where you don't really try to become, to understand the environment. You're just focusing on carrying out a task and completing it, and that's it. On the second one, on the long duration, you're actually trying to become unique with the environment, being able to work without spending much of your energy or much of your brain power in dealing with things around you. So once becoming an extraterrestrial person, flying like Superman, becomes second nature. When you don't have to think anymore, how do I translate from here and there? Can I carry with me something? How do I carry it? Can I drink something and am I going to choke, or I cannot handle this? I mean, when you learn all of this, then it's fine. So I know that there are some people that will fly many times up and down and would not stay long. I know some other people treasure this becoming an extraterrestrial. So I don't think there is a norm. I mean, personally, again, I would fly in space in any situation, in any conditions. Do I have a preference? No. Sharing an isolated and confined environment with some other people for a long time poses problems. We all know very well that even being married, it's a problem some way, somehow. But if you are, I heard some people that say, a sailboat in the ocean, it's a very good way to take some very close friend and make them become enemies. So in space, you are in an isolated, confined environment, relatively small, and you have to work together in a way that things needs to flow in a certain way. So you have to be conscious of what's going on. You have to be conscious that anything you do has an impact on the other people, and obviously. All these people working together, even coming from different background, different education, different social norm, may be a problem. So before the space flight, we do several activities together. We try, for example, to do as much training as we can, so that we learn about each other. We learn about each one of us has its own peculiarities. At the same time, we also learn a few strategies to work together effectively. We learn about leadership, we learn about followership, because everybody talks about the leader, but very few people talk about the followers. And the role of the followers is as important as the one of the leader. We talk about little strategies to avoid conflicts. For example, one of the things that we usually try to do is to diffuse a possible explosive situation, which means that as soon as there is something that is slightly bothering you, even before it gets to a bothering level, you actually talk about it. You actually put it down on the floor, and some things are very simple. I mean, somebody keeps putting something there, and I have to move it every time I do the experiment. This bothers me, and I do it the first time, second time, third time, the fifth time I throw it out of the window, which there's no window station, but somehow. So you try not to get to that point, and this is if we think about it, it's not that complicated. Talking and verbalizing, whoever puts the stuff there, please don't do it. If I know it, I don't put it there. That's it. It doesn't matter to me. I put it here, put it somewhere else. So, but I have to know about it. So it's interesting because at the end, space station sees people really coming from different cultural background, and there is a definite difference between the Russian culture and the American culture, some of the European cultures, the Japanese culture. Canadians are more or less like Americans, so. But even inside Europe, the Italian, the German, the Danish, the British, the Spanish, there are really different cultures there. I have to say though that one of the nice things of the space station is that you have the really common goal of, first of all, making sure that you are working and doing your part, and everybody is understanding exactly what is needed is expected from him or her, and everybody wants to do the best of it. And second, there is a very good understanding that you're doing a very important work that has priority. You need to focus on those, and this serves, when there is a common goal, serves as toning down the national differences. When we were on station, we, from the USOS side, so from the non-Russian part, we mostly worked there, and if I would need to go on the Russian segment for doing something, I would usually make sure that somebody there would know that I was there and I was doing something. Also because I didn't want to break anything, your last thing you want to do is to break something, and then you have to call and say, hey, I did something I should have told you earlier, and nothing. So mostly we stayed in our part, but we did do experiment together, public relation activity together, and we try to have meals together, because meals are one of the part of the working day where you actually socialize, where you can say things and not being aggressive, not being under pressure, not being, you can just talk and do things. We even had once a week we had a movie together, which was 1 week we would do it in the USOS segment, and the other week we would do it in the Russian segment. So, I got to watch the Potyomkin battleship Potyomkin. I'm just joking. I mean, we saw some very good, solid Russian movies on the Russian segment. The Russians were laughing, we were just kind of like lost. But then we repaid them with good movies in the US segment, and it was actually really interesting. At the end, we did not have any major problems on board from a social point of view. We did not even have any minor problem on board. I think it really works when you're focused on what you're doing, and this technique of talking and putting things forward really works. So I would say it was very enjoyable, and we were very effective on carrying out what we were supposed to do. And after 6 months, it's good that you're still friends with people. We cannot do a flight to Mars today because we still don't have the technology, we still don't have some of the things that are crucial for allowing us to go to Mars. We should probably start working seriously on it, and it would take probably 10 years or maybe even 15 before you can actually do a really good mission plan and execute a mission to Mars. And it would require a putting together resources, both financial but also technological, and from a mindset point of view. I think a mission to Mars should probably be the first real human mission, all the Earth together in going in another planet. I think it will work. If we would manage to do that, we will really have accomplished something. Today, if we think to a mission to Mars, we think to a time frame of couple of years, more or less. And it's very challenging because the way we do space flight today, it's essentially being constantly connected to Earth, meaning that on the space station when I was up there, we would sleep at night because there would be flight controllers on Earth that would make sure that the pressure is there, temperature, electricity. I mean, they would take care of the spacecraft, and rarely, actually in 6 months, we got woken up once, and they asked us to do something specific for 15 minutes, and that was it. All the rest, they always took care about something. But this will not work on Mars because the time signals, the radio signals would take to go from Earth to the spacecraft to Mars and coming back, minimum, 15, 20 minutes will make impossible for the ground to really be effective in case of any problem or any situation. So we need to develop new technologies, a new way of handling things. We need to develop new spacecraft with multiple redundant systems and the capability of the system to do self-diagnose and self-repair. We need to understand a little bit more about space radiation. We need to understand a little bit more about psychology, and if today mission to the station is pretty busy because you're doing experiments and getting results to Earth, but if you go to Mars, are you going to do experiments and all that travel time? I mean, what are you going to do, playing cards? By the way, I brought cards in space with me. Stupid, I did not think that you cannot play cards, they're flying away. So I brought them up and I did not even open them. It's kind of an interesting and challenging situation. It will require really seriously that we all pull together our common brain power and talk and understand both the technological part of it. It would be very nice to have very powerful engines. I know somebody's trying to build some plasma engines that would allow us to propel the spacecraft in a way that could significantly shorten the travel time required to go to Mars. That's also a serious problem. We need to figure out how to, feed people food, oxygen, water. Think if you need to put everything that 4, 5, 6, 10 human beings need for 2 years and put it into a room, that's a lot. That's a lot of things. So there are so many challenges there that we need to think about. I personally think that it's a very good challenge. It's not an impossible one, but it's a challenge. I mean, some people think it's trivial to go to Mars. It's not. It's complicated. But I think we are at the point where we are ready to do it as humanity. We are ready both from a technological point of view. It will serve us to really focus a little bit on technology and science. It will really make us focus on forward our knowledge and our capabilities. After all, sooner or later, we probably need to find some other places in this universe, and this will be a good stepping stones to go forward. Well, human spaceflight, I think it changed in the sense that it became now more and more normal, quote and unquote. And it became to the point that it's starting showing some commercial capabilities, and as soon as there is a commercial reason for doing something and return, then people will start doing something, and we are at the verge of transforming human spaceflight, especially in this case low orbit spaceflight. So going up, let's say, to the space station, or going up and stay in orbit for a day, 2, a week, and then coming back. It's becoming something that is accessible, or should be accessible, to the commercial sector. Because after all, after having been in space for quite some time, I can say that it's very enjoyable. At the beginning, the first day or two, you get nausea or something, but you get so many other things that you don't get on Earth, and this feeling of floating around, this feeling of falling and nothing is holding you. It's really interesting. I felt like a little kid discovering things, and things would not work, and then they would work, and wow, this joy of discovery is something that really gives you a lot of sensations. And then the capability of looking at the Earth from up there is just astonishing. I mean, this is like, being on Earth, it's just like going to a museum to watch a painting and lean your nose against the painting like this, and now you're trying to see what the painter is showing you. Oh, look, Mona Lisa, I see an eye here. Look, a little. You are not seeing anything. You move away. You move a couple of meters away, 3 meters, 4 meters, and now you see the painting. Now you say, wow, this is what it's telling me. Now I see Mona Lisa smiling. Now I see the background around. And this is what happens in space. I mean, yes, we see on the ground details, but we don't have an understanding about our planet as a unique planet. We don't have an understanding of how we are all in this small place. You think you are in Bulgaria, and who cares what happened in Macedonia, Greece, or Italy, or UK is too far away, forget about it. I mean, no, you are very close, actually. You have we do influence each other, and we do not understand. And then, you see the fragility of the planet, the beauty from one side, but also the fragility from the planet. So there is a lot of things there that make sense for people to go in space, and I really wish for everybody to experience in their lifetime, microgravity, see the Earth in that way. I hope the tourist sector will develop pretty quick, and I hope and I really wish that everybody could buy a ticket with a reasonable price, like we do today. I want to go to New York. 100 years ago was impossible. Now you just buy a ticket and you just go to New York, not a big deal. And I wish this will happen very quick in the future. So maybe even a few years now, I could say, okay, I want to go in space again, and I will just go and enjoy a little bit because I will be too old to be a professional astronaut. Why not? This is very good. So I'm really looking forward and for this to happen, and I'm pretty sure it will happen relatively soon. Well, I don't know what is happening in the next 10 years for space. Space is becoming. We have an understanding that space is becoming more and more important. And we do find new things, new way of doing stuff. Until yesterday, big corporations with big state funds and strategical national objectives would be only the one that could do something in space. But today, with the cost coming down, with technology going up, with capabilities, and with people dreaming to go there, I think we are on the verge of getting really new things, new use of space. Are we going to have, a fleet of microsatellites in space launched on? Anybody can launch his own satellites. Why not? What is that going to do to our economy, to our way of doing business? To things like that. I mean, what is it going to do when people may really seriously go to space and go there for tourism, but a scientist can go in space and do his own experiment. I mean, some people may have laboratory in space and go back and forth. I know. I would even dream of somebody working in space and going back and forth every week or every month, going up and down and do things the way some of the people today travel to their workplace by train or by plane. So it's really interesting. I think my personal wish would be continue what we have established there, open it up to the public sector, open it up as much as possible to everybody, but also focus as human race, focus on continuing exploration. And to me, going to Mars is one of the challenges that we have facing us. Of course, it would be interesting, for example, having an outpost on the moon. So start learning to have a permanent habitation place there and do research or something. I'm pretty sure there are possibilities there. So anything can go. Let's just go forward. I don't know what are the things that scare me about technology. I mean, I'm not a philosopher. I'm basically an engineer, and my view is that science and technology are good. Anything, knowledge is power that allows you to choose. The fact that you have knowledge, not necessarily you need to do something because you know about it. But if you don't know about it, then you cannot use it or not use it. So in my opinion, the more we know, the better we are, the more technology we have around, the better it is. Now, we need to be careful a little bit because I see a lot of people that become dependent on technology and they're not able to function anymore if they don't have the cell phone and the camera and this and there. So there are some things that need to be carefully thought. I am somehow, while I like technology and I like all those things, I always try to be, whenever possible, try to be a minimalist. So try not to depend on anything. Try to be able to function without something. But per se, I think knowledge and understanding and technology are good. We should not be afraid of those. We should really go forward. The more technology we have at our disposal, the more knowledge we have, in my opinion, the better possibility we have to conduct a better life. In general, I am an optimist, and I always think that the future can be better. We should do better, and thank God we have a future, so we can redo the same things and do it better with a higher goal, with a common goal, and things like this. So I am an optimist, and I think sooner or later we will realize that we are a lot of people on this earth, that the resources are starting getting limited, or at least we are getting to the limit of the capability of this planet to sustain us. We need to be a little bit more attentive how we use resources, but we do have the capability of doing this, and I think eventually there will be a moment in which we all together will do better. So normally I'm an optimist, and this one I also have this view. There's not much difference to my message to young people. There is not much difference if they're coming from Bulgaria or from any other country. I think the message is still the same, and the message is essentially, whatever you are, you can be a little kid from a little town in the middle of nowhere, it doesn't really matter. You have the potentiality of becoming or doing whatever you want. You need to understand what you want. You need to understand what you're good at. You need to understand what are your passions. Those are difficult things. I think the biggest challenge for young people is for them to understand what they really want. And in a certain way, at my age, I'm not young anymore, but I always say I'm trying to figure out what to do when I grow up. What do I really want? What is my next thing? Because, good people never grow up in a certain way, or never achieve what they they feel it's done, that's it, there is something to be done more. So I would tell people, the young people, that they really need to think without boundaries. You know, a lot of the boundaries that they think they have, I don't know, the place where they're coming, their original country, their language, their knowledge, their capability, those are not boundaries. Those are characteristics that can even be, actually they should be positive things that will help you in a special way. So tell them, feel that you have the control of your future, and you know, take control of this future and bring it where you want. Then I would really tell them, you know, dream impossible things, dream impossible dreams. Think about stuff that you know, people will think you are crazy, and then, you know, wake up and start working on those, because you know, sometimes, not always, if it is a complicated dream, most likely it will not happen. Otherwise it's too easy. No, most likely it will not happen. But it happens, and so you need to concentrate, you need to work, you need to give it the best shot, you need to learn, you need to not to get discouraged, you need to understand that mistakes, failures are part of the growing process. You need to understand that you know, things could be done in 5, 6, 7, 12 different ways, and maybe you need to try all of them before you find a good one. But this should not discourage you from your goal, and keep going, because eventually even those crazy impossible goals, you know, sometimes they become true, and they're really important for you, but also for all of us. And we need to have dreamers so that we can all together go forward.